Hello and welcome to Time Management, the series, with me, Amanda, if you haven't already figured it out by the sound of my voice. So today we're covering some productivity applications and tips. None of these applications are super innovative or high-tech. Most of them are pretty basic, and most of you probably already use them in some way or another, so I'm just going to talk about how to level up your usage of these particular applications. And we're going to cover 4 key areas. We're going to cover sleeping, eating, believe it or not, we're going to cover scheduling and reading. So here we go. First one is sleeping. Sleep is so important. I cannot stress how important sleep is. Sleep and how you sleep regulates how the rest of the day goes. It regulates how much stress you have in your life. It regulates, it has a huge effect on how long your life is, your mood all day long, how hungry you are, your weight, your risk for disease and sickness. Sleep is so important. So I try to take my sleep really seriously. And there's a couple of ways that I motivate myself or that I use applications to do this. So the application I personally use is called Sleep Cycle. There's another one called Sleepbot and probably lots more that you could use. But essentially you want to look for an application that will give you a record of how long you sleep every night, and will show you your average over time. And then based on that information, I use it to motivate me to look at my trends to see, okay, am I getting less sleep or more sleep? And then I make notes about, when I feel best or when I don't. So for instance, Sleep Cycle gives you the option to put your mood in every morning when you wake up based on how much you slept. And then it'll give you analytics where you can go back and look at, okay, on the nights that I sleep 7.5 hours, I wake up in a better mood than when I sleep 8.25 hours. And in general, you just want to keep track of how much you're sleeping, because I think we don't realize sometimes that we're either getting too much or too little. So just something to help you keep track of your sleep, and to help you optimize how much you sleep when you go to sleep. Oh, that's another thing. So all of our bodies follow what's called a circadian rhythm, and the most important thing about using these sleep apps isn't necessarily how much you sleep, but tracking when you wake up and when you go to bed. Because if you wake up and go to bed at the same time every day, then your circadian rhythms, which you can see an example of here, they get really efficient, and it makes it so much easier to find the optimal times each day to do different things. So for instance, if you get up and go to bed at the same time every day, you're going to feel about the same at the same time of day every day, and you can learn to utilize that stuff. So for instance, I get up at 7 a.m. every morning, and I know that I have my best productivity around 9:30. So 2.5 hours after I wake up. So I try to get to the office by 9:30 every day so that I have that first half hour where I feel really productive to just work on my own. I know that I'm going to be able to run my best in the afternoon, usually, sometime between noon and 4:30. Obviously, you see that coordination gets the best there. And then worst case scenario, I know that, roughly around 5 or 6 when I get out of work, that my cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength is going to be the highest, right? So I can go do my long runs after that. But yeah, in general, the most important thing is just to have some kind of application that helps you track how much sleep you're getting, find the amount of sleep that makes the most sense for you, and then find the right time of day to get up and go to bed and stick to it even on the weekends, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later. So the second one is eating. Believe it or not, there are ways that you can use applications, web applications in this case, to make eating and meal preparation more efficient. So this is going to sound really silly, but services like HelloFresh and Ocado are services that you can use to automate something that you have to do every week regardless. So if you have to eat every week, and let's say you like to cook or you don't, maybe you like to put together meals, maybe you don't, either way, essentially your groceries show up at your door and it saves you all the time and all of the headspace that you would need to create a grocery list, to find time to go to the grocery store, to put together meals, because it all just shows up at your door ready to go. Now, if you prefer not to do fancy meals like HelloFresh, you can just use Ocado, which is grocery delivery, and you can actually set it up online to send you the same type of groceries every week, or every other week, or every month, or maybe you only need milk once a month and you need eggs every week, so you can set it up automatically to send you that stuff, and then you can tweak it as you go. Maybe you thought you would need eggs every week, but you only need them every other week, and it's going to save you so much time, and frankly, in the long run, I think it ends up saving you money too, even if you use HelloFresh, which is a little more expensive. Okay, so then the next section is reading, and this one's super simple. For me, I'm an auditory learner, so I love audiobooks. But in general, I try to squeeze in my reading during my transportation time because I think we lose a lot of time during the day moving from place to place. And so if you can optimize this time by doing something like listening to an audiobook or reading a book on Kindle on your phone, you can actually absorb a lot of information in transit. For me, it works particularly well to listen to Audible while I exercise or while I'm on the tube. And I'll go through, 1 or 2 books a month sometimes, extra that I might not have read otherwise, just because I use Audible. And then the really nice part is I subscribe to the membership, so it actually forces me to buy a book every month, and I always know that my next credit is going to be applied to my account, let's say at the beginning of every month, so it kind of encourages me to finish the book that I was on beforehand. So can't recommend Audible enough, or Kindle if you have to be somebody who reads physically, or just carrying a book with you wherever you go. Is so helpful and so useful. But I love Audible because I can use my hands to do other stuff while I listen to the book. Sometimes that just means I'm taking notes because the material is really dense, and sometimes I'm listening to it like I might listen to music. So yeah, that's one other way. You can download, let's say you have optional readings for class. So one way you could use Audible, obviously, is you could buy the books, the audio version of the books, and save yourself a ton of time. So even if you don't absorb all the information auditorily, it's still probably better than reading Spark Notes or reading some kind of summary online, so still would recommend Audible in that case. And then as far as scheduling goes, I use a really simple tool. I love Google Calendar, and it helps me to be so much more productive. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use Google Calendar, but my guess is that you're not using it as effectively as you could, and at times even I don't. Don't be overwhelmed by the next screen, but this is how I started out using Google Calendar. So literally I would schedule everything. When I wake up, when I eat breakfast, when I work out, when I prepare for the day. My free time, so you can see on Sunday, I have from 10:30 to 5 that I'm either going to work on my boyfriend's house or I'm free. And during my free time, I can do whatever I want. And the reason this is so useful is because it helps you start to see how much time you really have when you think about stuff like eating, preparing for the day, running errands, traveling, and that kind of thing. And it's really nice because you can go back at the end of the week and you can see how did I spend my time. How much of it was actually spent doing productive stuff versus how much of it did I spend doing, random stuff. What I like to do is I set my calendar up in the ideal version at the beginning of the week, and it looks something like this. And then let's say that on Monday at 9 a.m. I arrive to work 30 minutes later because I woke up 30 minutes later. I'll put a note on my calendar or a new event on my calendar that's bright red, showing that I wasted that time or I didn't spend that time the way I wanted to. And then at the end of the week, I'll see how much time I wasted or didn't spend the way I wanted to, and then I'll just try to decrease that number the next week. The other nice thing is if everything's scheduled like this, it kind of ends up being like puzzle pieces, so then you really don't have to worry about getting stuff done. So if I know for a fact that I need to go to the dentist, I'm going to schedule dentist during my adult errands time. And then let's say that for some reason I can't get an appointment on Wednesday, I'll just drag my adult errands, mint green thing over to Friday when my dentist appointment is, and I'll take whatever I need to take out of Friday and move it over to Wednesday in that time period. So it kind of ends up being like puzzle pieces where just because you don't do something at the time you said you would do it, as long as you have everything else scheduled, then you can just move that thing that you did do. So okay, let me give you an example. Let's say that instead of doing, let's say that, oh gosh, what's a good one? Instead of getting ready for bed, no, let's say that I get ready for bed early, like at 7 p.m. Oh, this is a bad example, darn it. I don't have anything fun on here. Let's say that instead of doing my coffee at 9 a.m., or at 10:30 a.m. I get into the office at 9:30 and I do it then. Okay, well then I'm just going to move travel up, I'm going to move coffee up, and I'm going to move whatever I missed. So maybe it's my run. I'm going to move it to the end of the day down below where dinner would be. And so then it kind of gives you peace of mind, right? Because you know that, okay, I'm choosing to do something right now that I was already planning on doing later. So then in that spot later, and you have a physical, or I guess a digital representation of it, I'm going to do what I should have done at this point anyway. So then pieces end up getting mixed up, but then you still end up getting everything done. And I like to use this instead of keeping a to-do list. So anything I have something I need to do, like let's say for work, I'll go into the work thing and I'll actually put it in. So instead of it just saying work from 10:30 to 5:30, it'll have all the stuff that I've picked up over the course of the week that I said I would do on Friday. But I leave it as work at the beginning, and then I fill it up with tasks as they come along. And sometimes I don't know how long it's going to take me to do something, so I just pick an amount of time that I'm going to spend doing it, and I just put it in there, and that's what I stick to. So if I say I'm going to send an email, if I say I'm going to clear my inbox, okay, well, that's going to take me an hour. I just take a guess, I put an hour in, and I do my best to get it done during an hour, and whatever doesn't get done during that hour, either I add another hour later in the week, or it just doesn't get done, and that's okay, because there's only a certain number of hours in the day. The last thing I'll just say is you probably noticed that I put like my free time in here, and I think that's really useful because when I spend free time from 8 to 10 p.m., I don't feel bad about it because it's scheduled, and I hate to say this, but structure creates freedom, right? So if I have my free time scheduled from 8 to 10 p.m., from 8 to 10 p.m. I can do whatever the hell I want, and I don't have to feel bad about it. The worst thing ever is when I just want to sit down and watch an episode of Netflix, and I feel so guilty about it the whole time. I don't even get to enjoy it. So this gives me an easy way to enjoy it. Really, that's it. So if you guys have questions about anything at all, whether it's maybe these apps don't work for you for sleeping and you want a different strategy, happy to give you some tips on that. If you want to talk about circadian rhythms, I think they're really interesting, and I am super interested in how nutrition and hormones affect this as well, so happy to talk about that. Other ways to automize really simple things that you have to do every day, like using HelloFresh and Ocado for eating as an example, happy to talk about that. Other productivity apps for consuming information, like Audible for reading, happy to talk about that. And then there are a couple of other efficiency tools that I use for scheduling besides Google Calendar. So if you guys have any questions, my email is amanda@isaac.co.uk, and I'm happy to answer them however I can. But for now, I'll go ahead and sign off, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers from London.